kept pushing on, but then you went too far. When your ship has sailed and all your dreams are lost, everything is wrong, you feel like it's your fault. Just remember, I will be there for you, baby. Remember, there's nothing out there to get you, don't forget it. When life feels lemons, just remember. Just remember. Just remember. You're stronger now than you ever been. You gotta leave now, it's time to catch the wind. You will climb up high and look through the clouds, and when you're feeling low, I know you'll bounce back. Oh, and just remember, I will be there for you, baby. Remember, there's nothing out there to get you, don't forget it. When life throws lemons, just remember. Just remember. Just remember. Just remember.
After one championship was settled last night, we stay here in the desert of Phoenix, Arizona to determine who will be the Season 18 Truck Series champion here for the Ricmotech Truck Series, and we will find out at the conclusion of tonight's event. Good evening, everybody. My name is Frank Marchese. Thank you very much for making us a part of your evening here tonight. Alongside me, my broadcast partner, Greg McConey. Greg, a great race last night. These trucks are going to have a fun and difficult time trying to get around this place.
Yeah, with this new configuration of Phoenix, I'm really looking forward to seeing these trucks and how they're going to take the entry into one especially, and how many guys are going to actually dive to that dog leg and how far down they're actually willing to go. It's going to be interesting.
Yep, it is, and that's something we're going to be watching out for all night long here tonight. And if you were able to catch the race last night, you'll know it was a great, great race. We saw a two-stop strategy play out last night. We're running 20 more laps than what we were last night. A fairly quick night with no cautions last night. Would expect more of the same here tonight, which means tire conservation, especially on this flat racetrack, is going to be key.
Yeah, that right front is going to get torn up tonight if you're not careful, and it's real easy to overdrive this entry and miss your exit and put yourself in trouble, especially getting close to that turn 2 wall now. It's really going to get interesting.
And one of the things we're going to be watching out for here tonight are the little gremlins that always seem to come out right after the season update. For those of you who don't know, today was the 2022 Season 2 update for iRacing. A lot of new content coming out, which usually means a lot of server issues today and tomorrow could wreak havoc here tonight. Guys, possibly blinking a little bit more than what we're used to seeing.
Yeah, and that's something everybody's going to be keeping an eye on is what is that net code going to look like? Like you said, the blinking's going to be there, but how far off is their car in relation to yours, and is it going to be any different than we've seen in the past?
Now, iRacing claims that they did work on that that net code bubble, but we'll see that, I'm sure, as this race goes on. But right now, we have a race for a championship that we have to concern ourselves with. And right now, James Holtzer, by virtue of winning at Indianapolis last week, currently leads the championship hunt by a mere point over Bryce Senesac, who's 2 points clear of Mike Rominger and Jordan McGraw, just 5 points separating all four drivers in this championship. Anybody can win it tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. And with no faster pairs, you got to be so careful of watching out for the wall as well as other drivers, because if you get into trouble here, this is a real long pit road if you've got to come down under green. And if you've come down under green and nobody else comes with you, you're in for a long night.
Yeah, absolutely. And you'll notice up there at the top of the screen, the more keen-eyed of you will notice that our window is up here tonight, and that was also part of the wonderful changes that iRacing made here for the start of Season 2, and I'll have that sorted out by Thursday night, most definitely, for the TNT Truck Series race. But right now, what we'll do is we'll take a look at the grid here for tonight's race, and sitting on the pole for tonight will be the man who currently leads the championship hunt. The man who currently leads the championship hunt, that would be James Holtzer, qualifying in at a 26.960. David Elliott, more than a tenth and a half off of that, will make up row number 2. Michael Thwaites and Ed Morris, last night's winner and the Monday night champion, will make up row number 2. Row 3 goes to Mike Rominger and Bryce Senesac. Jordan McGraw and John Sterling in row 4, with Scott Ramler and Christian DeBoer rounding out the 10-truck field that we will have on tap for you tonight. Weather conditions here tonight, very akin to what we saw last night. A little bit warmer, 79 degree air temperature, 82 degree track temperature, be a nice and cool night that's really going to allow these trucks to get wound up.
Yeah, it is. That cool temperature is going to put a lot of grip into this track and really help those corner exits and building a lot more speed down those straightaways. So you're really going to see guys diving it in hard into the corner because you're going to feel, especially early in a run, you're going to feel like you cannot slip up with these tires. But it's real easy, especially if you have a little bit too much rear brake. You got to watch that rear end of the truck doesn't come around as you're diving in underneath somebody tonight.
Yep, and there's going to be a lot of new here tonight that we will go through throughout the evening. But right now, as we get set to dive into the old turn 1, down into turn number 3, getting set to go for the final time here in season 18 for the Ricmotech Truck Series, 160 laps from Phoenix Raceway. We are green.
Holtzer gets a great jump on that restart. He's going to be clear by about 4 car lengths going into 1. Now you see he dives to the bottom. David Elliott stays a little bit higher going through the corner, and that's just going to be that difference of line tonight. Holtzer's going to have the advantage, and he's clear by several car lengths now as they go into 3.
Speaking of having an advantage, that's 7 and the 4. Both of those guys ran in the Maestro's ARCA Series race here last night. Ed Morris took the win and the championship in the Monday series. David Elliott finished 1 lap down in 5th. So those guys have a lot more experience on this track, albeit in a different car, around this racetrack than anybody else.
Yeah, and no matter what car you're driving in, the tendencies of this track tend to stay the same. Early run, a lot of grip, things feel good. But as this run gets about 15 laps in, if you're not careful, you're really going to burn up your tires. As you see the 0.9 of Bryce diving down hard onto that apron as they go into 1.
Bryce Senesac trying to do what he needs to do, especially with the points leader, just a mere point clear of him. Now in the race lead, Senesac moves up into the 3rd spot, as Mike Rominger and Jordan McGraw have both fallen backwards on this start. John Sterling getting the position on David Elliott, and so will Mike Rominger, who gets back up into the 5th spot. Rominger now looking to the inside of Sterling for 4th.
Yeah, and up front, we got a great battle here between Ed and James. Ed's got underneath James in that, using that dog leg that we talked about earlier on. He was really able to get the car low and get that bottom line in 1 and 2. He's going to see if he dives back down. You see him here, how he cuts that corner so much, and that gives him a great ability to close that gap. But the problem's going to be it does tear up that tires a little bit more than if you just run the track by yourself.
And we noticed Ed Morris the entirety of last night running down there, cutting that dog leg. One of the very few guys that did it, no matter really where he was, right up until he got to the lead, and then he was staying on the racing surface. But you can see how aggressively he's cutting that dog leg. If you didn't see the race last night, it's a carbon copy of what he was doing in the ARCA car.
Yeah, and that ARCA car and this truck have a lot of similar tendencies, especially a lot of high downforce in the rear end of these things. As we see the 0.9 of Bryce get to the back end of Ed Morris here. And we're going to see that a lot tonight. Guys are going to get to that rear bumper. You'll probably see a little bit of bump and run from time to time. But this early in the race on lap 7, it's too early, in my opinion, to be pulling those kind of moves because you're bound to get yourself in trouble.
Big cloud cover now coming over this racetrack. Last night, we didn't have to worry about the transition from day to night as Bryce Senesac jumps under Ed Morris to take that 2nd position and will do successfully. So moves Senesac in the 09 up. But we didn't have to worry about that day-night transition last night. The race started in the dead of the night. Here we're starting in twilight. There's going to be a big track evolution as this race progresses.
Yeah, there is. This track's going to feel, especially on new tires, faster and faster every time they come in and either take a set of tires or get deeper into the run. But it's also going to tighten these trucks up so much, and you really got to be careful. These things, kind of looking at them in practice, these trucks seemed a little tight to start off. even in that daytime that they were running, and they're just going to get tighter and tighter as this run builds on and the darker it gets.
Now, we did see, I believe that was Scott Ramler did set a qualifying time, but he did not start this race, so only 9 drivers on circuit here tonight. As David Elliott continuing to fall backwards. He's now battling on the back end of John Sterling, who is the only Ford in the field here tonight. And for those of you who have, again, as I keep mentioning, the more keen-eyed viewer will notice a little bit something different with the Ford and the Chevrolet. And notice there are no Toyotas in the field here tonight. This was one of the big overhauls that was made in this season update. The 2022 spec trucks were added to the sim. The update was a lot kinder to the Ford and the Chevrolet as far as paint schemes go, with a complete overhaul of the Toyota. Everything got wiped out for the Toyota as far as paint schemes go, so you're going to see guys sticking to the Ford and the Chevrolet for the near future until more stuff comes out on trading paints for the Toyota.
Yeah, and I don't think it's going to take that long, but you talked about David falling back. He's definitely taken the entry, at least into 3 and 4, a lot easier. John. See John there with David, and you just see John kind of drifting up the track. He's pushing that entry into 3 a little bit more. It's kind of helping his exit, running that higher line, carrying a little bit more speed, but he's also going to put more pressure and more heat into that right front. And as that run goes on, he's going to start to struggle more and more.
See the new nose on that Chevrolet Silverado as we drive on board with John Sterling. Running in the 5th position right now. Sterling, our second biggest mover behind this man, currently sitting in 2nd, Bryce Senesac, who is now battling not just for the race lead, but for the championship lead as well, with the 99 of James Holtzer. Ed Morris running in 3rd. Mike Rominger also in the championship 4. Holding on there as well in the 4th spot. Jordan McGraw, the last of the championship 4, running in 8th. Now, he did not have the strongest run in Indianapolis last week, but did come on strong and have a solid finish at the end. If you're trying to save tires now and trying to figure out what the truck is doing the way we're seeing Jordan McGraw do right now, you can allow yourself to fall back, but you can't allow yourself to fall too far back and get in danger of being put a lap down.
Yeah, and it's easy to go a lap down here if you're not careful. The big advantage, if you're watching Bryce and James, those guys are actually drafting off of each other down the back straightaway. And when you start running by yourself, even though this is a short track, that draft still plays a decent role in keeping your speed and keeping you with those guys around you. And if you fall off too much, you're going to really start to pay the consequences. And that's kind of where Jordan's at right now. You want to stay within a second of the guy ahead of you, preferably on a short track like this, closer to half a second to gain any advantage with the draft. Jordan right now is sitting about a second back. So he's starting to struggle a little bit, possibly maintaining pace or possibly burning that right front.
He is one of the guys on the outside looking in here on this championship. One of the guys, I guess you could say, that would be playing with house money is that 34 of Jordan McGraw. 2 of the drivers coming into the championship for tonight, Bryce Senesac and Jordan McGraw, did not have a win under their belt this year, as James Holtzer with 7 on the season and Mike Rominger had 1. So those guys come in big-time underdog story. Senesac performing a lot better right now.
Yeah, he is, and you'll kind of see it here. I've been watching him the last few laps. Both those guys, like we talked about before, how Bryce had been running that apron through the dog leg. He's moved up, and you see him taking this higher entry line in 1 and 2, and it really helps him with this runoff down the backstretch. And a lot of times you'll see in the Cup car, that's kind of the preferred line, is running about a lane or 2 up the track in 1 and 2, down on the bottom here in 3 and 4. But that 1 and 2 line just gives you that little bit more speed coming down the backstretch, and it's often a very good way, if you're close enough, to set up a dive bomb into 3 to get underneath the guy and get the lead.
Absolutely is coming off of what used to be turn 4 onto the old front straightaway here. Senesac has been holding close, but has not put down a massive fight for the lead. Now, he did put down the fastest lap of the race the lap prior, or the fastest lap out of anyone the lap prior. This time, it was a tie between Holtzer and Morris, but that 09 is right there, letting Holtzer know, hey, this is not going to be an easy waltz for this championship. I'm wanting it just as bad as you.
No, absolutely. And what Bryce is doing is right now he's just trying to gauge James, see where James has the advantage over him, see which corner Bryce can get the better run into or out of. You saw it coming into 3 that last time. He got a great run, and you're going to see another great run here as they come out of 2 down this backstretch. But all he's doing is just gauging James early on. See how much right front tire James is burning. Now, if Bryce can maintain what he's doing, keep that fresh air on the right side, keep some downforce on that car or on that truck, if he can maintain a little bit better tire wear by backing off his entry, that's going to give him the advantage over James as this run goes on.
And we talk about it so often here on the network, and I'm sure going back and watching through your races on Monday night, you'll have heard us talk about it. It's a lot easier to gauge how you're saving your tires when you are not out in front of a pack. You could be burning your stuff off at the front of the pack and think you're actually saving. Meanwhile, the guys behind you are saving up so much more than you are. So while you do want to get out in front and get the race lead, Bryce Senesac is not in an enviable position right now, running a close second.
No, he's not. And like we talked about, he's just pacing himself. We're 25 laps into a 160-lap race. He's gaining on James bit by bit, and we've been watching it here. But don't go burning your stuff up. This new tire model that iRacing has, if you're able to take it easy for about the first 5 laps, the advantage you're going to get is huge as you see Bryce get a big run and take the dive bomb here into 3.
Saw it so much in the ARCA race last night, being able to straighten turn 2 out as much as you possibly can. This could give Bryce Senesac the race lead here, but it will not, as James Holtzer gets a better run there. Surprised he didn't cut the dog leg as much as he could have, but Senesac with the inside line coming out of 2 can't get the momentum coming out of the corner as Holtzer holds on that top line.
Yeah, and what James did is he saw the line that Bryce wanted, where Bryce gained so much time on him in 1 and 2 was that upper line running about, like we said, a groove up. And he went up there, took that line away from Bryce, and you saw the advantage that it gave him.
And we've seen with this tire model, and we know Tony had talked about it last night during the ARCA race, that with this tire model, and especially on flat racetracks, it is very, very easy if you have that outside line to defend on corner exit against somebody on your inside, because you're able to take the corner exit the way you want to. You can pin the guy on the bottom down and make him really get off the gas if you need to. So a very good defense there by James Holtzer.
Yeah, it is. And you'll see that all night long. You're going to really watch these guys play that kind of aero draft game as you see Bryce here take this upper line, trying to rotate that center better. Maybe what he did right behind James burned that right front up a little more than he was anticipating, because you also see Ed Morris here has gained on these guys significantly.
He's gained by virtue of just of those two battling. Not to say that he doesn't have the pace to be up there with these guys. He certainly does. As Morris trying to hold down the fort. Mike Rominger about a second behind. Here he is in the 9. So 3 of the 4 championship runners right now running in the top 4 positions. John Sterling about a second and a half behind Mike Rominger. That's for 5th, with David Elliott shadowing very closely behind him. Elliott saying not all that great as far as tire conservation last night. And again, that's also what helps. Granted, it is a completely different car, that ARCA car to this car, but if you can figure out how you were saving tires last night and how quick they were burning up, you could definitely translate that in change for a better result here tonight.
Yeah, it's real. Everybody says it's easy to save tire. It is. It's easy to back off to your entry and try and roll the center, but it's hard to do that and maintain. As you see right here, Ed Morris is really closed in on Bryce. The last few laps, Bryce has kind of been searching for that little bit of grip. Been trying to figure out a way to get back to the rear bumper of Holtz. As you see right now, he's kind of jumped back in that same line, and Ed is the one that's now kind of moving up the track and really cutting that entry to that backstretch by going straighter. And that's going to give him a big advantage as this run keeps going.
Absolutely, and it has given him an advantage here tonight. And Mike Rominger also starting to cut that as well. And Rominger, we just said a second ago, he had a gap of about 1.2 seconds up to Ed Morris. He's cut that in half in just these last couple of laps, putting down incredible lap times as Ed Morris starting to fall off a little bit. Ed Morris that last time around running at 28.57 while everyone else around him in the low 28.4s. As we've already seen, with 34 laps into the run, we've already had a second of fall off here.
Yeah, and Phoenix is really known for that tire fall off with how flat it is. So I would not be surprised here. I think it's still a little bit early, but you're definitely going to see guys pulling a tire strategy tonight, whether out of necessity of burning that right front away, or if the case of Bryce and Ed, you want to come in a lap or two ahead of James. Take the advantage that like you said, it's a second faster on new tires versus a 30-lap run where we are right now. Take advantage of that.
And again, with Ed Morris did take advantage of that last night to help him win the race in the ARCA car last night. And going back to last night, we saw the pit strategy play out. The first pit stop didn't come until around lap 60. Pit a little bit earlier on the second stop. It was around 110, 115 when the guys started to come into pit for their final stops, and they ran it all the way to 140 after that. Here tonight, you could pull that 160, you could pull that 60, 120, and then go 40 laps to the finish here tonight. So I would expect a similar tire strategy to last night.
Yeah, that's where you're going to want to be looking. You're going to want to take as much advantage, especially in that last run, if we stay green, of really gaining the most advantage in the least amount of time on those sets of tires as you can get.
Seeing on pit road right now, that is the 56 of Christian DeBoer, and you can see by the right side of that truck, he has hit the wall on, if not one, but several occasions. So DeBoer bringing it down into pit road to kind of repair that truck, as Holtzer and Senesac battling now again. These two, Senesac has found his rhythm, and not only has gotten up to James Holtzer, has started to run away from Ed Morris as well, and Morris has fallen into the clutches of Mike Rominger.
Yeah, he is, and like we've said all night, tires are key. I don't think Ed has done anything too drastic, but you can definitely see that that car's getting real tight on him, and he's having some trouble rotating the center in 1 and 2 to gain that speed that Bryce has going down the backstretch here. As you talked before, Mike Rominger is just moving his way up and marching his way forward, and it won't be long until he's on the back bumper of Ed Morris.
It absolutely won't, as we see James Holtzer set his fastest lap in a while. That last time by, he's run 28 threes the last 2 laps, and Bryce Senesac now answers back with a 28-3 of his own. Meanwhile, everyone else behind him now starting to hit the 28.5. So those two up front, while they've been pushing and maintaining the pace, they still have the fastest trucks out here tonight.
Yeah, and that's the advantage of having clean air. that James has, followed by Bryce, get very little disturbance as you enter and exit the corner. That just helps settle the car in, helps maintain tire wear, and helps you keep this thing going forward and keeping up your pace.
Absolutely is. David Elliott still just outside of a second away from John Sterling in the 5th position. Jordan McGraw has now fallen to 3.5 seconds behind David Elliott. Michael Thwaites has also gone southward. He is now running in the 8th spot. Christian DeBoer back out on the track, albeit a lap, almost 2 laps down to the 99 of James Holtzer here. And Holtzer once again starting to run away. He has found some late run pace in this number 99, and Senesac just can't match it.
Yeah, we talked before on that speed difference. So even though Christian DeBoer got into the wall and has some damage on that car, that last lap he ran a 27.6. James Holtz is 28.3. So that's a full, almost a full second right there that new tires, even on a damaged car, is able to pull away. So if I'm DeBoer, right now you're running as hard as you can, burn all the goodie off of those tires while you have the advantage, because you've still got a good shot to get yourself back, if not on the lead lap, get yourself to the tail end of the field so that when those guys behind you pit, you've got yourself an advantage for a few laps in case that caution does come out.
You can see for about the last 5 laps, as we just shown on the screen there, James Holtzer has been about a 10th quicker than Bryce Senesac. They were almost identical this last time by, as Senesac falling just outside of a second behind that 99. Ed Morris 1.2 seconds adrift of Bryce Senesac. Mike Rominger still hovering about a half a second behind Ed Morris, and these two have broken away by 2.5 seconds away from John Sterling and David Elliott. So we're just about to get to our first set of pit stops, not that far away from now. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back. You're watching the Ricmotech High Performance Truck Series right here on ESBN.
Changing the face of the world doesn't happen overnight. It takes a strong group like no other, each containing unique characteristics, ones that inspire change and progress. To be a maestro is to lead, to inspire, and to create, helping shape both communities and industries. Changing the face of the world doesn't happen alone. It happens with strong leaders, ones that defy all odds. The first generation of barber maestros helped create the movement. The second will define it.
Back live here from Phoenix Raceway for the Season 18 finale for the Ricmotech Truck Series. And as you just saw on break, James Holtzer having some connection issues, and second, third, and fourth all coming down into pit road at the same time.
Yeah, the interesting thing with that is James is staying out on track. I'm a little bit surprised, having seen the tire fall off that we did, that he's deciding to stay out like this. It's going to put him, he's going to have a good advantage right now, but give those guys about 5 laps, and the 09, the 7, the 9, all of them will be right back together on his rear bumper.
Just stayed out on track again for another lap, as Holtzer, we'll see what he does now. He comes into pit road, as Bryce Senesac has already got that truck warmed up and wound up. Still about a second advantage over Ed Morris. John Sterling comes in. Jordan McGraw will stay out. Now, this is going to be big for Jordan McGraw as far as the championship is concerned, because McGraw, again, was running in 7th as the final runner of the championship 4. He now gets credited for leading a lap, and it won't be too much longer now before Bryce Senesac will get credit for leading a lap, as he's going to pass up James Holtzer here.
Yeah, we talked about this too. Holtzer, that last time before he came into the pits, was running a high 28.7 or so. Bryce, on his first lap out, 27.5, and he just turned a 27.3. So that's the advantage of fresh tires versus 52 lap old tires.
Personal best for Bryce Senesac, that 27.33 last time by. Fastest lap of the race set by David Elliott in the number 4, and you can see that 1.2 second lead that James Holtzer had has been flipped to a 2.7 second disadvantage the other way, as Holtzer has fallen from the race lead into 3rd, and not by a close margin either. He's going to have to work to make that gap up.
Yeah, he is. And the disadvantage that he's going to have is the way that Senesac and Ed Morris played that is, in my opinion, the right way to do it. Like we talked on before, you want to be one of the first guys in on pit road on a long run like this, because you gain, as you saw, a 1.4 to 1.5 second advantage per lap. So like James had that 2 second advantage, that's 1 1.25 laps that Bryce had to run in order to overtake that advantage on him. And now, with them being on equal tires, James' advantage is not going to be able to catch up in time. He's going to really have to fight hard to get back there.
Yeah, but he's also going to have to deal with something he did not have to last time through. He's going to have to fight trying to get around that 7 of Ed Morris, who's battling solely for the win here tonight to try to sweep the final race week of the season. And that, I can guarantee you, will not be an easy pass for that number 7, as Holtzer just gets into the wall coming out of turn 4.
Yeah, let's take a look. I want to take a look and see what kind of damage he's got on that car.
He climbed that wall too.
He did. You can see a little bit of a scratch on that right side. It doesn't look, honestly, it doesn't look as bad as it could be. He kind of got away with something there.
See right under that J on the hood there as we ride on board with it, the paint scrapes and the hood is up a little bit. I say this all the time. We try to point something out, something small out like that. God, I wish I had a telestrator. I wouldn't be able to be trusted with it most of the time, but for something like that, I think it would be all right.
Yeah, and that's not going to hurt him too bad. It's definitely going to tighten the car up. Even that little bit of damage will have an effect on tightness. And the other thing it'll affect slightly, not too much, but it'll affect the fuel mileage a little bit, because he's having to run a little bit more RPMs to maintain the speed. Like we said, that if you get a caution, that's an easy fix under caution. Probably 15, 20 seconds worth of damage. As you see him blink again there, But that's something he can definitely get fixed, and it won't hurt him too bad if he gets a yellow.
We had mentioned at the top of the broadcast the Week 13 Gremlins, and we have seen James Holtzer blink out a couple of times. Hasn't disconnected because of poor connection yet this season, but this would certainly not be the greatest of times to do so. Just before we came back from break, as everyone was coming down pit road, we saw Michael Thwaites in the 12 come down pit road. He has come down and stopped, so Michael Thwaites done for the evening. He will be our first retiree in that number 12, as Holtzer now starting to catch up to the back of Ed Morris here, and we will see now how difficult a ride Morris is going to give that 99.
Yeah, he's going to push him, and I would not be surprised to see James try and get to that outside of Morris, because we've seen that all night. That's where Bryce was gaining that advantage, especially in 1 and 2, running that single line up to really kind of not dime in the corner in the traditional sense of it, but being able to ride that higher entry and late apex that corner to get a straight shot off going down the backstretch. But you're going to really see James get to that back bumper of Ed, maybe give him a little tap. He'll think it's a little early, but it's when you're in James and you know you've got a fast car, you got to just keep the patience. Stay in Ed's mirror, force him to make the mistake and don't make one to get yourself in trouble.
And we were riding on board there the last lap and a half or so with Ed Morris, and we pointed it out all night last night, but just how violent that slam coming off of the banking out of the old turn 2, now turn 4, into the dog leg and then back up onto the racetrack is. And as your brother points out in the chat, that is adding tire wear to that right front with that added load and constant bouncing that he's doing on that apron every single lap.
Yeah, it is, and it's a risk versus reward. As you see James dive to the bottom here, he's actually going to get ahead of Ed Morris as they come into 1 here. But that's that risk versus reward. Are you willing to put that kind of tire wear on your right front and hurt your long run? As you see, Ed is able to get a good run here, and he's going to be side by side with him as they come into 3.
Yep, and Holtzer going to try to dive in. Unfortunately for him, he's not going to be able to get the big advantage on entry. He will get it, however, on exit. So that's James Holtzer up into the 2nd position and blinking now just for good measure to make sure Ed Morris stays off the back of him. Bryce Senesac out in front here has lost about a second of advantage, but that also means he is saving those tires, trying to get a better jump on the long run. And it's fun when you're able to have a 2.5 second lead coming out of the pit stops. You can afford to be a little extra cautious as that lead you have starts to dwindle.
Yeah, right now you just want to maintain about that 2.5 range. If you're Bryce, like you said, don't push the car harder than you need to. Don't burn your right front tire up, because you saw there was that point there probably about 40 laps into that last run, 30, 40 laps, where Bryce really started to fall away from James because he was burning that right front more. So if you're Bryce right now, just take it easy. You know you're going to get a little bit of lap traffic here of DeBoer. Hopefully DeBoer moves up out of the way like you want. You catch him in a good spot. But just maintain about that 2.5 range right now to James, and you'll be all right.
Primetime Motorsport teammates, the 56 and the 09, as well as the 7 of Ed Morris, as Christian DeBoer gets lapped without much of a problem for Bryce Senesac. And while we have this race going on here tonight, just be sure to stay tuned, because in about a half hour, the Western States Racing League will be running at Knoxville. Flip over there after the conclusion of this race to see what these trucks will look like on the dirt. Coming up tomorrow, 2 events tomorrow night. It'll be the Way She Goes Racing League at Las Vegas starting at 8:50 p.m. Eastern Time. And then about a half hour after that will be the Ghost Cup Series from Bristol, as Holtzer, boy, DeBoer not trying to help his teammate as much as he possibly can, not letting Holtzer go easily, as Holtzer now does get the advantage. But once again, going back to it, the Ghost Cup Series at Bristol tomorrow night at 9:20 p.m. Eastern Time. Then on Thursday, it'll be the TNT Truck Series. They will be at the Charlotte Roval starting at 7:50 p.m. Eastern Time. And then on Friday, Greg, normally your show is in town as well, but it'll only be the KMM New Gen Cup Series from New Hampshire at 9:20 p.m. Eastern Time on Friday night. So it's a full week of racing here still to come on ESBN, and I'm sure with how much you have been broadcasting here lately, might want to brush up on a couple of these other leagues.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to see what these guys are doing. I was in the booth last week with Angel, with the one second, I can't think of the name of it off the top of my head on Wednesday night. The USRA series.
Ghost. That was Ghost on Wednesday, and then TNT with me and Tony on Thursday.
Yes, you're right. So that was a fun one. And ESPN, you guys put on a lot of great racing. Like you said, I'm with the iRacing East Series on Monday nights in our Cup cars. Friday nights, it's the Super Speedway Series. So you get everything you want. We got trucks this week on dirt. You got the Next Gen Series, road racing. You guys got it all.
Yep, a little bit of everything, and it's all coming up this week. And I know we had talked about it off air on Thursday, but we've been broadcasting the I believe this is our fourth or fifth season of the Circle B Diecast Super Speedway Series on Friday nights, and this is our second season broadcasting the Rowdy Energy Cup Series. And you've seen the broadcasts from your end and just watching it, but how different is it, and how much cooler, informative is it by being up here and being on this side of it?
I love doing this. This is fun for me, being able to, like you said, get to the other side of the windshield and essentially a spectator watching these cars and trucks on all these tracks. Because the interesting thing for me is I'm using this to learn, all right, where are the fast lines? What is working for the guys here? Even though this is a truck series, with the Rowdy Energy Cup Series going to Phoenix on Monday, I'm watching, all right, what line is taking the advantage? Who's really burning tires? What are they doing? Are they using a lot of brake? Are they doing like you see the guys right now do, with Bryce running the bottom, James running that upper line a little higher than we thought before? Is that building any kind of more speed to close that gap to Bryce as this run goes on? So I'm using it to, one, get to talk about the cars and everything that's happening, because I love racing in general, but I'm also using it as a tool for me, essentially like watching film for football or sports like that. See where the advantages are, see what guys are doing. Maybe there's a little trick somewhere with that diamonding the corner that we talked about that's going to help me when I come here on Monday gain that little bit of a competitive advantage.
Now that you put it that way, we don't have enough broadcasts between this week and next week to get all of those guys the unfair advantage that you're getting right now. So
yeah, we're gonna keep this one quiet.
Yeah.
Keep it on the side that I get this little bit of foresight into what we could be seeing on Monday night.
It's about as loud quiet as I've ever seen. Speaking of being loud quiet, James Holtzer is very loud now behind Bryce Senesac, has closed that gap down, and now here is the 99. We'll see if the 091 is just straight down on pace right now, or if he's been saving something knowing that this moment was going to come.
Yeah, it's kind of tough to tell from just sitting here and not actually being in the car. But I think, like we talked on earlier in the show, there's a big change and a big difference between leading and burning tires and following and burning tires. I think Bryce may have been a little bit too aggressive early on and burnt that right front up a little bit more than when he was following James in that first run.
And Holtzer not only had to make up a 2.5 second gap, also had to make a couple of passes in there as well, something that Senesac had to do on the first run. As we're seeing the weather conditions, wind is a heck of a lot more of a factor right now. Wind gusting at 11 miles an hour to the north. But other than that, there's a big block there by Senesac coming out of turn 2 and going into turn 3, taking the inside line. But ambient and track temperature really have not changed here. It's just the wind blowing around this place that's going to be the only real change for these guys tonight.
Yeah, as you see James taking a deep dive here into 1 and keeping Bryce up on that upper lane. James, what he tried to do is he tried to make that little bit of crossover coming out of 4, and it worked. He got side by side with him, but like we said before, that little bit of an upper line, and we've seen it recently with iRacing. You're able to defend with this tire model, defend a little better on that second groove to upper line, as James has a big blink there. And that's really kind of gave Bryce that run down the back, and it's kind of put James about 3 car lengths behind him. As we see, they're both now moving up the track to gain that run.
And as far as Week 13 Gremlins go, I mean, we've broadcasting for Sim Racer's Edge, we've had complete and total server meltdowns when it came to Week 13 Gremlins. So to see James Holtzer really only blinking maybe a little bit more than normal as he heads down to the inside in turn 1 here, getting quite lucky with the update day coming and going. Senesac still holding on. Holtzer will have the inside going into turn 3 here. Will he be able to get the advantage coming out? He'll certainly have the advantage of the dog leg. Holtzer a little bit ahead, and he will not quite be able to clear Senesac. He will, though, going into 1.
Yeah, Senesac's going to get a great run on that second line, and he's going to kind of try to pinch James down on the bottom. But you're going to really see James get a good run into the preferred line here in 3 and 4. And Bryce is really putting on a show to keep that second place and try and stay side by side. As you see a little bit of smoke as those guys bottom out on that apron like we talked about. And Bryce gets a great dive back into 1 to stay side by side with Holtz as they come at it 2.
And again, these two not just battling for the lead of the race, they're battling for the lead of the championship. They both have the lap lead bonus. They both have, naturally they both have their positions, but with Senesac coming in a point behind Holtzer, he needs to finish ahead of Holtzer and needs to lead these laps. After Holtzer led the first 55 of this event, every lap right now is critical for Senesac if he wants to win the championship, and he is showing you how critical it is. These guys have been side by side for the better part of 5 laps now.
They have, and I heard something real interesting coming at it too there. I heard Senesac shifted to 3rd to gain that run that you saw coming back onto that backstretch. He downshifted to 3rd as they get real close there. Now you're going to see Senesac get back to the bottom. I would not be surprised to hear him shift back to 3rd to try and gain that run, but Holtzer's going to have the advantage coming back down the backstretch.
There's Holtzer, gets the advantage on that outside, and he will take the run. And you see the damage on the right front, just behind the right front wheel well there on the 99 from where he hit the wall at the beginning of this run. And Senesac now starting to take that apron. We'll see what he does here going into turn 3. Yep, he's down into 3rd. You're right. Downshifting is that 09, trying to gain any bit of advantage that he can to try to get him that Season 18 trophy.
And the advantage is he takes a deep dive into 3 there, almost gets to the back end of Holtzer. The advantage of downshifting to 3rd is you're throwing a little bit more torque to those rear tires, and you're actually breaking them a little bit loose, which is why you're seeing Bryce really be able to rotate the center of that corner and get such a good run. is because he's actually putting a little bit more torque than he was previously, and it's breaking that tire and not getting it to the point that it's free spinning, but certainly it's making it spin a little more than it had been in the past.
He's getting a little too antsy from what I'm seeing, diving in a little bit too deep, trying to gain as much advantage at once on Holtzer, and by trying to do that, he's lost 0.9 of a second in just a couple of laps. Holtzer has been in front. Now again, he's not in an enviable position because he can pit before James Holtzer and Holtzer not have time to react. Meanwhile, he can mimic what Holtzer's doing in front of him, and if Holtzer stays out and Senesac comes in, we saw the gap that Senesac was able to build with Holtzer staying out an extra 3 laps.
It is, and here's the interesting thing, though. We know those guys came in about lap 53, so we're within about 10 laps of another round of green flag pit stops. And if I'm Holtzer, you saw how much he lost with those 3 laps that he stayed out, and you know with Senesac coming in, 4 laps before you did, I would be trying to basically out-hit Senesac if I'm Holtzer, and try and come in either on the same lap or come in a lap before, knowing that you've had that little bit of a better long-run car. As you see here, as he's now pulled almost 0.8 of a second away. You be the aggressor and make that pit.
It's a second gap now as they head to the line between Holtzer and Senesac. Everybody on track except for Holtzer. Sterling and McGraw came in on lap 52. Holtzer and Sterling came in on lap 55. McGraw lap 56. So the tire advantage, it's a 3-lap tire advantage for that 99 right now, but this late into the run, pretty much 50 laps into this run, that tire advantage very well could have been wiped away at this point, or from what we're seeing out of Senesac right now, could have actually grown.
Yeah, absolutely. We've been talking about these 2 guys up front. If you look a little bit farther back, Ed Morris is sitting just about 4 seconds back from the leaders here. Mike is about another 2 seconds behind that. These guys, if, like we just said, talking about Holtzer, maybe these guys want to be coming in maybe on lap 102, thinking these guys are going to be coming in about lap 105 to 108. Be the aggressor, because you saw the advantage that it gave Senesac and them early on. If you can do it, maybe you can get a late race yellow after you get going here to kind of give you the chance to equal back out on tires. I wouldn't be surprised to see some of these guys back around even 3rd place, 3rd to 5th, making that early stop, knowing the advantage it'll give you.
And for Rominger, it would be very advantageous for him. He currently sits 6.3 seconds off of the race lead, and if he wants a shout at this championship, he is going to need to be one of the first cars to come down pit road to try to gain some of that advantage back on your first couple of laps on those fresh tires, while those guys are either battling and hopefully they've completely forgotten about you so they stay out a little bit longer, you can get a little bit closer, or that you could just make up at least half of this gap by just coming in those couple of laps earlier. Put yourself in a position to win the championship, because with this series, and unfortunately with the low field size, you cannot rely on a caution to bail you out of a sticky spot.
No, and that's why if I'm one of those guys like Ed or Mike, I'm looking to lead this green flag segment by coming in early. Worst case, maybe you get a chance, and maybe you see Holtzer or Senesac have an issue. Maybe they get on pit road hot. Maybe they slide through their box a little bit. You want to be able to give yourself the best advantage that you possibly can if you're going to have any chance to catch these guys.
And as we saw last night, this stop, we're expecting to be the final stop of the night. This stop could be the tricky one, because we saw 3 of the 4 championship protagonists all have issues on pit road. 2 of them slid through their box. Another one had the dreaded, oops, we missed a lug nut on the left rear code come up on his pit stop, sent him a lot further back through the field than what his pace would say. But you can't, once again, you can't rely on other guys making mistakes to help you out, as here comes Bryce Senesac into pit road. He will be the first one to come.
That's a great move by Senesac. Now we got to watch. You got to be so careful here because you've been running, probably about 150 going into 3. You come onto pit road, you're going, what's pace road speed? 45.
Yep.
So you've got to be so careful. This is such a long pit road. You really don't want to speed. It's so easy to get yourself in trouble by speeding at this kind of track. As you see, Holtzer stays out. He's doing that same thing he did before.
Ed Morris comes into pit road. Mike Rominger stays out. David Elliott came into pit a lap ago with Bryce Senesac. And I'm surprised with how far Holtzer got put back to see him stay out a couple of laps again, as now he comes in. Again, I'm just surprised to see how far back he fell, and then to do the same thing again, knowing you're not going to be pitting again.
Yeah, and right now, Senesac has the advantage. He's out on track with fresh tires as he's just unlapped himself the hard way. He's going to have a big run here, as these guys are going to be sitting about 30 seconds or so, 30 to 33 seconds in the pit stall, taking 4 tires and fuel. It's going to be real tough.
It was a great pit stop for Bryce Senesac as well, a 14.67 second stop for that 09.
What was I talking about?
Jordan McGraw stays out. He will take the race lead. Holtzer with an even better stop, 14.52 seconds in the box as Senesac now passes. Oh, it's coming up.
Yeah,
Senesac is not going to be able to get around Holtzer, at least for the moment. This is going to be a crucial pass.
Yeah, it is, but the advantage that Senesac has is his tires are warm.
Yep.
Been able to get a little bit more grip in those tires, as Holtzer is going to be fighting this thing, especially with this new tire model. He's going to fight it for about 2 laps before those tires really come in.
Fortunately for him, had that outside line, was able to keep the momentum up coming out of 4, and it's going to hold on to the position at least for the moment. This is a battle for second on track right now, but Jordan McGraw, here he is, has not yet come into pit, so this will be the battle for the race lead when that 34 comes in.
Yeah, it is, and you got to remember, last time what we saw was about a 3 or 4 lap difference.
Oh, caution's out.
Comes out.
John Sterling around.
That throws a whole wrench in here, and if you're McGraw,
Wow.
you are honestly loving this.
Yep. Exactly what Jordan McGraw needed, and exactly what I said you couldn't wait for has come out. We'll take a look and see what happened with Sterling here. This is going to be coming off of turn 4. I hate when it does that. All right, so here we go. Coming off of 4. Just gassed it too early and looped it. Boy, Ed Morris very close to getting a nose full of race car. And just a simple slide for that 3.
It is, as you see, as Holtzer stays out, Bryce Senesac comes in, follows McGraw. Now, they only ran about 3 laps on their tires, but with 5 sets of tires, you've got, less than 50 laps to go. I'd come in and take a set. I don't know why you wouldn't. I think that's the advantage that you're going to have. As you see, Holtzer is going to stay out with the 56 of DeBoer, who's a lap down, as the same as Sterling, as DeBoer gets his lap back. Lucky dog. That's very interesting. And looking here, let me see, coming off pit road first is going to be McGraw. Everybody's taking 4.
The 3 championship protagonists get into their pit boxes without issue and will get out without issue. McGraw wins the race off of pit road naturally. Senesac, Morris, Rominger all coming in. David Elliott still in his box, now comes out. 22.5 seconds in his box for David Elliott, as John Sterling now will come down to pit road. And I can see what your point is. It was only a couple of laps. Holtzer came in on lap 117. The caution comes out on 109. That's
107.
Still, oh, yeah, that was when Holtzer came into pit, was on 107. So you only have about 2 or 3 laps in anger on those tires. I don't know if it makes much of a difference, to be perfectly honest. And with Holtzer's long run pace, I don't see this hurting him too bad.
No, I my opinion, being the guy that's been behind the wheel, right now with the 10-car field, 8 cars running right now, worst, and the 8th place car being a lap down, you're going to fall back to 7th. Worst case, let's say you're the only guy that comes in, you're in 7th, but you got cold tires. You're heat cycling. If you're Holtzer, you've just heat cycled a set of tires, which in this build doesn't compare to as much as real life, but it does have an effect on those tires and how they're going to feel for the first few laps of the run.
But while we talk about, you know, this tire model, and we've both brought it up, completely forgetting the fact that this tire model just changed here tonight. So these guys are flying blind as far as that's concerned. They could have completely made the handling after the heat cycle, as you've been mentioning. They could have completely changed it.
I didn't know they updated the tire model. I haven't had a chance to go back through the build notes yet and see everything that changed.
Yep, they've worked out a little bit of everything as the pace truck now comes off of pit road. And this is the bummer about having pit road where it is, because now you got to run half a lap under the honor system at pace speed here.
Yeah, and it's a slow 55-mile-an-hour crawl that they're making right now.
Yes, it is. So Holtzer, the only one that didn't come into pit under this caution, takes us back to green flag racing. 46 laps to go, pardon me. And Holtzer gets another great jump. Jordan McGraw up in the swing of things here for the first time tonight. All 5 of the championship 4 in the top 5.
Yeah, we talk about McGraw and Senesac having that fresh set of tires. As McGraw, it looks like, gets into the wall, Senesac's going to get around him down low. But Senesac got a great entry into 1 and 2, really dove that truck deep and really closed in on McGraw, as you see him now trying to chase down the leader in Holtzer.
Did I say all 5 of the championship 4?
Yeah, I was going to let that go.
I was thinking of the top 5 thing. So all 4 of the championship 4 in the top 5, even with McGraw falling out of second. That fact still has not changed. As McGraw sitting in that 5th spot, Rominger 4th, Senesac 2nd. Senesac already a half a second behind James Holtzer, and you can see a little bit of right rear damage on that 09, so he's either caught a wall or maybe have made contact trying to get back up to that 99.
Yeah, it's kind of the same bit of damage. You see it right there above that rear wheel. Similar kind of damage the Holtzer has. It's not really going to affect that truck too much right now. If anything, it may loosen it up a hair, which would really help Senesac out as his run goes on. As you see a great battle here between Morris and Rominger as they come down out of 2.
Looking off the back of Bryce Senesac's 09, Mike Rominger looks to the inside of Ed Morris for 3rd, and that's a move that's been building for the last little while. Mike Rominger jumps up into the 3rd spot. Onto the podium goes the number 9, and you can see here on the back of the 09, it's very faint, and you can barely notice it if you're not really looking at it, but you can see the seam on the right side between the paneling on the top of the trunk and the side is broken up a little bit, and that's the damage. That tiny little bit of damage is what could make or break Senesac's race. We take a look back full screen. It was a half a second. Senesac's right to the back of that 99 right now.
Yeah, and could it be the advantage of tires? A 3-lap difference between the two? Maybe. I love this move that you see Senesac really dive it in deep. He's really trying to get underneath here. Now we're going to see if Senesac takes that apron like he's kind of done all night, or if he's going to force Holtzer
there he goes.
up the wall. There he goes, down low, and he's going to take this bottom line entry, try and dive that truck in deep, but Holtzer shuts the door on him hard.
Big defensive move there from James Holtzer. Just inside of 40 laps to go here in the season finale from Phoenix Raceway. Frank Marchese, Greg McConey on the call here tonight as we have an insane championship battle playing out on your screen right now. James Holtzer, the points leader coming into tonight, versus Bryce Senesac, second in points, just 1 point behind. And these two have been first and second all night long and have put up some amazing battles as Senesac makes another big dive going into turn 3.
Yeah, Senesac needs to be careful not to burn that right front off and lose any kind of tire advantage that he has by diving that truck deep. As you see the 7 of Ed Morris try and get underneath Rominger there as they come into it 1. Look at how high Senesac goes. Really trying to build that run to get that straightaway speed going down the back to possibly set something up again going into 3.
Now you would almost think he's trying to diamond the corner there, but he never comes down off the back end. So you take that one long corner and break it up into 2. When we talk about diamonding the corner, it's entering low, allow the truck to drift up in the middle, and then cut back down and get the truck as straight as possible, just the way Senesac did there, as soon as possible to build up the straightaway speed coming out of that flat corner. Not really doing that. He's holding that second or third line firm, trying to just build up that momentum slowly instead of unleashing it all at once.
Yeah, he's doing, I'll call it a modified diamond, where he, like you said, he wants that middle line because that's where that preferred entry is. You're able to hang that little bit more speed, and with the way that this track is shaped, it almost acts like a late apex corner where you are about almost 3/4, 2/3 of the way through the corner before you really start to turn the car down, and you're trying to gain as straight of a line as you can coming down that backstretch. And that's what we've been watching Senesac do. He's been doing that to near perfection all night long.
See, all of these drivers, except for Holtzer, taking the cut of that dog leg. Of course, Ed Morris, if you watched the race last night, you know he is by far and away the most aggressive with that cut. But all of these drivers now starting to take that cut except for the 99. And I know it's awful, but we have to take a cut as well. 30 laps to go here from the Ricmotech Truck Series race at Phoenix, the season finale. We will bring you the championship finale when we return. What network bumper? Forget the network bumper. We got less than 30 laps to go, and the championship battle is on screen right now. These guys have been starting to size each other up, and Greg and I during the break trying to discuss who had the advantage. You think it's Senesac, I think it's Holtzer. These guys are about as close as you could possibly get here with 27 to go.
Yeah, I think Senesac just has that advantage in 1 and 2. I think if he can keep and get close enough to the back end of Holtzer as this race keeps going on, he's really going to, as you see him dive to the apron here to try and get to that inside line, I think he's going to be able to set something up if he can maintain that high line. As you see Holtzer take that line away from him going into 1.
And Ed Morris right behind these guys takes the 3rd position away from Mike Rominger. My goodness, look at how much deeper that 09 is able to go into these corners. But the 99 is able to hold that run and hold that momentum on corner exit, allowing him to stay up in front. Maybe not for much longer, as here comes the 09 to the inside.
Everywhere you look, there are battles going on. This top 4 is fighting like crazy, and it is putting on some miraculous racing here. Senesac, seeing Holtzer take that line away that he wanted, dove down to the bottom 1 and 2, was able to keep pace and stay where he is. But like you said, Holtzer just gets that little bit better run coming off of 4. If Senesac can get there and keep that line that he wants, as you see Holtzer now knowing where Senesac wants to be, he takes that line away, and he's going to force Senesac to run a different line to make that pass.
And there's that diamond we were talking about with Holtzer coming in the middle and then straightening out the exit of turn 2 as much as he possibly can. And one thing that we kept talking about during the break was that late run fall off that Bryce Senesac has had. He now has 4-lap fresher tires than James Holtzer. Will that make a difference? Has he learned something from the first couple of runs that will help him here with how hard he's diving in? I'm not sure he's going to be able to keep this up.
Man, if he can, he's still giving it his best shot. And when you're here in this championship series, you came in 1 point behind the leader of Holtzer. You have to give this thing everything you've got. You either take this truck home with the checkered flag in hand, or the truck goes home on the wrecker and you're holding the wheel as you walk away.
It's the checkered, not just the checkered flag here, but the season 18 championship, as Holtzer, more than deserving a champion, 7 wins on the season for this number 99. He has been about as deserving a champion as you could find. His big-time rival for the championship after getting knocked out in the second round, as I think Senesac might have caught the wall coming off at 2 there.
I didn't. I was looking away, looking at another car right now, checking in on Ed Morris and Rominger, as Morris is really starting to close in on these guys. But this is my first race watching this series, and between these top 4 and really this entire field right now, this has been some of the best truck racing that I've seen on iRacing in a while. These guys are going all out tonight, knowing what's on the line, and there is nothing. Well, I'll say Homestead. I was always a big fan of Homestead as the series finale, but coming to Phoenix under the lights in a race like this where everything's on the line, this is fantastic.
Absolutely, and if you're not quite done with truck racing here after these final 20 laps, be sure to head on over to the Western States Racing League. Their broadcast just started. They are running from Knoxville Speedway, trucks on the dirt, here this evening, as 19 laps to go to determine who the champion will be. Bryce Senesac has fallen off a little bit, but he's maintaining. He's not falling back any more than what he already has. He's maintaining that gap around 4/10.
Yeah, and he gains almost a full 10th coming down that backstretch with that outside line and diamond corner that he runs. So he's keeping Holtzer in his place, and Holtzer's watching in that rear view to make sure any move that he's making is not letting Senesac get any closer to him.
Yeah, and if Senesac has come in tonight with that mentality of, James, you might win this championship, but boy, I am going to make you remember the battle that I gave you. And he has lived up to that mantra here tonight. The battling between the 99 and the 09 here tonight, some of the best I've seen in my 2 years of broadcasting here on ESPN.
Absolutely. And what you're seeing, kind of something I've started to notice coming out of 4, with how Senesac is getting into that corner or cutting off the dog leg, he's really on the wheel a little bit longer, turning it, than Holtzer is, while Holtzer is not gaining the advantage of cutting the dog leg. He's holding about a mile an hour or two, and that's keeping him even with Senesac as he dives down onto that dog leg even more.
And you can see it's the bouncing. And any of that speed that's being lost by the 09 is from all of the bouncing that he's doing coming off of that banking. We had talked about it so much last night during the ARCA race with Ed Morris. And like I said, your brother mentioned in the chat earlier on tonight, just a lot more tire wear. The truck gets a lot more upset. Suspension parts start yelling at you, plus the back end steps out the way you just saw there with the 09. While it is a faster route, it's a route that comes with many perils.
Yeah, it's that risk versus reward. And this late in the race, if I'm Senesac, knowing that I'm trying to gain any bit of an advantage that I can on Holtzer, I'm willing to try anything. Absolutely. And one thing you saw with entering in 1 and 2, I think Senesac has started to dial that brake bias more towards the rear, because you're seeing that rear end step a little bit more than what it was doing as this run earlier on in this run. So he's dialing a little more rear brake in, which gets that rear end loose. And it helps the car brake better, but it's that same risk versus reward. You go too far, you're going to get lockup, you're going to get wheel hop, and then your truck's in the wall.
Now, as far as the in-car adjustments, you can only train the brake bias back about 3 percentage points off of what you had it initially to start the race. So if you have that brake bias set to 60-40, you can only move it back in car as far as 43-37 to try to help turn that car. But even though that 3% is a big help and makes a big adjustment, especially as you get later in the run. And Senesac
tapped the wall into 1.
Yep, he's using every bit of the racetrack trying to get whatever advantage he can coming out the 99.
Yeah, and he's holding about another second back to Ed Morris, as Morris is kind of falling off a little bit here with these guys racing hard. But like you said, we're down to 11 laps to go at the line. Senesac is giving this thing every last bit of tire wear, of suspension durability that is left in this truck. He's putting it all on the line here tonight.
And you can see it's not just Senesac. Holtzer also in the middle of 1 and 2 out to the wall. We have not seen that out of him all night. So while he is gaining time on that 09, he's still feeling the pressure that's coming with the final 10 laps of this season.
Yeah, and what he's trying to do is disrupt that air back to the nose of Senesac's car. Because if Senesac's in the wake of that truck ahead of him, and these trucks with that rear spoiler being so big, it throws a ton of air, dirty air that you'll hear about in racing, which is basically it's non-normalized air, as Holtzer is blinking a lot right now.
Yep, this is not the time to be blinking as well. Imagine losing the championship in the final 10 laps because your internet went kaput on you. That would be about as heartbreaking as you could possibly imagine.
Oh, absolutely. And with how many laps Senesac has led here, or with Holtzer has led here tonight, that don't turn it up to the week 13 gremlins. Oh, that's the worst thing that you can see happen here tonight.
Absolutely. And he's really been the only one that's had an issue tonight, and we have seen that 99 with connection issues in the past. Not enough to disconnect him from a race, but still that blinking has affected him this season.
It has, and it kind of it'll affect anybody. It's not just necessarily dependent on the computer you've got. It's your internet connection. It's your upload speed, your download speed. There's so many factors that go into being in one of these races and being able to see the car and for iRacing to register where your car or truck is. There's a lot that goes into it. And if one thing goes wrong, it can be good night, see you later. We're going to be on the truck because we lost connection to iRacing.
Yep. Speaking of settings, again, looking at the top of the screen here, you can see what settings changes can do to you. And it'll drive you nuts, especially if you weren't ready for them as the race was getting going. 6 laps to go here at Phoenix. James Holtzer now has opened up about an 0.8 of a second lead over Bryce Senesac. This has been 1 and 2 virtually the entire night. Ed Morris, I have a feeling, after winning the championship last night, has chosen the path to lay out here of this championship fight. I think he is more than content with sitting in 3rd position right now. Mike Rominger right there as well in the 4th position. He's inside of a second of that 7. David Elliott up in the 5th position. Jordan McGraw, just unfortunately not his night in that number 34. He has been the 4th and final championship 4 runner pretty much the entirety of this evening. Christian DeBoer on the lead lap, not far behind him. John Sterling a lap down, running in the 8th position. Michael Thwaites, the only DNF, stopping after completing 51 laps here tonight as Holtzer has taken 4 to go.
Yeah, he's taking 4 to go, and he's still holding about that 0.8 of a second lead. And you're seeing him move up and down. He's trying to disrupt the air back to Senesac to not let him get a run or get as much grip as he wants coming into the corner. It's 3 to go at the line.
Yep, as Senesac, we're starting to see again Holtzer stick up a little bit higher. As you had mentioned, now he comes down to the inside as Senesac starting to roll the line, take the line that Holtzer ran at the beginning of the night, and by taking that wider line, Holtzer is able to build up that speed and keep putting distance on the 09.
Yeah, as we come to 2 laps to go here, Holtzer holding about a second lead back to Senesac and about another 1.5 back to Ed Morris. These guys are putting on a show. It's a clinic that Holtzer and Senesac have been putting up at the front here.
Yeah, absolutely, and I hope you've had your notebook out, taking notes here this whole night to get you ready for Monday as rounding turn number 3 for the penultimate time. James Holtzer has had a dominating season. His main championship rival, Nicholas Vroman, was knocked out after the round of 8. Those two had shared 12 wins on the season. Holtzer came in tonight with a 7-win season, looking for number 8 to clinch the championship. He comes through turns 3 and 4 right now. James Holtzer takes the win and the championship here in season 18.
Bryce Senesac's going to bring it home in second, followed by Ed Morris and Mike Rominger. And then David Elliott finishes out your top 5 here tonight, as that was an incredible battle there at the end between Senesac and Holtzer. And then Ed Morris and Rominger got close all night long. Just nobody could get to that back bumper of Holtzer during this long run.
An unbelievable championship night here at home. I almost said Homestead. Here at Phoenix, as James Holtzer comes away with a very deserved championship here tonight. And I wonder how different this championship fight would have been. I know this is your first race, but to Nicholas Vroman not here tonight, he has been the thorn in Holtzer's side all season long. If it wasn't for his wheel disconnecting at Chicagoland, I wonder how different this championship could have turned out if that 95 was able to battle the 99.
Yeah, you hate to hear of technical issues doing it, but if you're Bryce Holtzer, as they say, it doesn't matter whether you win by an inch or a mile. A win is a win. and Holtzer definitely earned that win tonight.
He absolutely did. One of the best performances we have seen all season long, especially with what was on the line. And I'll be interviewing Holtzer here in just a second, as we will bring these guys up here, as Holtzer now will find victory lane. Oh, I can't go that way. Now, with this update here at Phoenix, I found out not that long ago, you can get to victory lane behind the wall there. And apparently, it's not through that way. As he looks for a route in, he's not going to find it there either. As he looks for a route in, let's bring our champion in here to have a conversation. James, congratulations! What a season! 8 wins on the year, and I figure you would have known how to get to victory lane by this point.
Yeah, I wasn't sure about tonight.
It's just walk us through tonight. It was an absolutely unbelievable show that 09 put on with you. He definitely made you work for this season 18 title.
Oh, without a doubt. Shout out to Bryce for one heck of a race. I'm trying to figure out how to get to the victory lane thing here out here. But haven't ever been here at this track, so it's good to do that. Not a great track for us, and didn't get a lot of practice in. But nonetheless, yeah, he gave me a heck of a run for my money. And if that went green, though, I wasn't sure if he was going to make it on fuel, actually, because we were downshifting, and just really wasn't sure if he was going to be able to make it on fuel or not. And then that caution came out, and now he had one lap on my tires of up to speed, and that was a point where, hey, if they stay out, they'll be on a couple lap older tires, but that track position might be, crucial. So I was like, well, it's one lap. I think I can, as long as I can fend off the first 5 to 6 laps, thought I was going to be okay. And Bryce gave me a battle all the way through. And that top side was fast, but you just had to kind of manage it because you really rolled on the right front. So I was just trying to stay on the bottom and kind of roll the center of the corner and try to keep some of that heat out of the right front, the right rear as well. And I think that's what helped us there at the end. But yeah, that was a lot of sweat there. I didn't know if it was going to happen.
On after the first pit stop, you had stayed out about 3 laps longer than Bryce, and pretty much the rest of the field did. Were you surprised by how much of a gap that Senesac was able to build out to you that you had to try to recover? Because when he came in, you were 1.5 seconds to the good, and by the time you came out of pit road, you were 2.5 seconds adrift.
Yeah, I mean, with the fall off, it's expected to have a little, and I didn't practice a pit stop entry, and I totally forgot that the cone is once you pass the pit wall. Mm-hmm. So I was at 45 way before where the thing started. So I probably gave up about 1 second, and then I really gave it about everything on that last stop because I knew if I got out in front of him on the fresher tires, it was just going to be a lot easier to manage, and we did just that, but the caution kind of threw a monkey in the wrench. But yeah, he really executed on that first pit stop and really made me work to get back there. And by the time I got there, it was a really hard battle because it's so hard to pass in the bottom and just kind of had to position ourselves. And yeah, I mean, he net gained on the stopwise because he was about 1.5, as you said, behind me, and then he was only 1 second behind me when he pitted. But like I said, the only thing is he pitted around 50. You had to go about 53, 54 to make it, and the tank was about 56. So he was really going to have to stretch it out, and he was starting to downshift early. And I only had about 3 laps of fuel left. So if he had, short pitted that, I really don't know if he would have per se made it. But it would have been interesting to see what would have happened for sure. But still worked out either way.
Now, typically, this would be the point of the evening where we ask you what are your thoughts going into the next week. But with there being no next week, you're the season 18 champion. What are you going to be taking into this season, this off season, knowing that it's going to be a little while before season 19 starts? what are you going to try to do over this off season to try to make season 19 a little bit easier than this season?
It's a good question. I don't know what our expectations are for next year because I'm not sure what we're doing next year. What series we'll be running in, because we have a lot of plans in the works on expanding the series back up, but we really have to rebuild as we lost a lot of guys from another league that started. So it's going to be a lot of work in the off season, and might be taking on a more of a recruitment admin role. So we might be hanging up the driver towel, but which I hate to do, having back-to-back championships now in the truck series. I'd like to defend it again, but we'll never see. We'll see what time tells, and I don't know. We'll figure it out either way.
Well, give the other people a chance, I'm sure, is what everyone else is screaming. So, Champ, the floor is yours. Anyone you want to thank, not just here for tonight, but for the season as well?
Yeah, whole season, admin team has done fantastic. Lots of hiccups, lots of new stuff, lots of getting around issues, and as an overall, we did a great job, or I should say they did a great job as admins to go ahead and put forth as best of a league as they possibly could. Lots of clean racing, lots of drivers that I respect and would gladly race with any time, even if I don't race, in XM99 another season. If I ran into them somewhere else, I'd be astounded to run with them. Just got to thank everybody from GT Motorsports as well that stuck it out this season. Only a few of us left, but Jordan McGraw, who's unofficially running with us, almost caught the right strategy there, got back to what would have been the lead if I didn't stay out, which I'm not sure what that would have made a difference on, but looks like he was struggling a little bit on speed tonight, but did about everything he did in his hands to put the race into his. So great job to him. Great job to Mike Rominger, who was also Championship 4 driver, getting P4. That's awesome. Nothing to hang his head over. And Bryce Senesac, lastly, once again, for doing a fantastic job, giving me one heck of a run for my money, and kept me honest all race. And it was the hardest I've had to work for quite some time. It reminded me of racing with Vroman all over again. Put on some great side-by-side battling. But also want to thank primary sponsor on the car, JP Designs. Go check them out on Facebook. Scheme starting at just $5. Got to thank everybody else on the truck, from Butt Kicker, Next Level Motorsports, Laurel Auto Group, and big shout out actually to my dad tonight for never being on a computer in his entire life and doing the season update, because I don't get him for work till 20 after 8 or 8:30. So I would have never been able to even race tonight if I wouldn't have taught him how to use a computer at 6:30 at night while I was at work without any kind of FaceTime or anything. So that was awesome that he was able to figure it out. So that's actually the biggest proponent of tonight, was having him able to do that. But yeah, that's about it. I think I already thanked you guys up in the booth. So I just appreciate everything, and this has been a great season. Nothing to, hang anybody's heads about anywhere they finished. Everybody did a great job this year, and just proud as an overall league that we could put on the shows that we did for everybody watching.
Absolutely, and it just goes to show yet again that family is always the most important cog in the wheel. Your season 18 champion, now back-to-back champion, James Holtzer, congratulations on an incredible season.
Thank you. Appreciate it, guys.
And that was your season 18 champion, James Holtzer. And Greg, you're going to be speaking with a guy who has absolutely nothing to be hanging his head about. Bryce Senesac is with you right now.
Bryce, Greg McConey up in the ESBN booth, man. How are you doing tonight?
Sweaty.
Man, you and Holtzer put on a clinic all night long, just running back-to-back, nonstop fight between you two. Tell us about the truck tonight.
It felt really good. I only did a handful of practice before the actual session went up, and realized quickly that it was going to be a track where I have to shift on, if not one, both ends of the track. And so I think that's where the majority of my speed was from. And I'd raced there in another league 2 weeks ago, so I don't know how much experience James had with the track, but I had some extra laps beforehand. So that may have been something, I don't know.
Yeah, you guys were just fantastic all night. This is my first time getting to watch you guys, and I get to be up in a booth for your championship race. Like you said, you were shifting early on, and you were one of the first guys that I heard actually shifting to third especially in 1 and 2. Was that really just to help loosen the car up, or was that more geared towards building that back straightaway speed?
A little bit of both, but I think mostly just trying to get good exit speed off the corners.
Yeah, and you came into pit on, I think, on lap 52. I want to say you beat Holtzer in by several laps in that first stop and gained quite a significant lead. How much did tires affect you and help you in that run versus as that run went on?
I'm not sure. I don't think a huge amount. It may have been like a small factor. I don't know, because I had it in my mind like the only way I'm gonna get up front is if I pit before him, and I had to do it at a lap where it at least made sense, and I have to go too crazy on strategy to just try and make a undercut work. But I think got him by like 2 seconds when he came out. Just good enough to hold him up for about 40 laps until he took over 40, 50 laps. So I don't think tires may have been that much then, but it took him that long to gain 2 seconds on me.
Yeah, and with that last pit stop that you guys had, saw you diving into pit road while Holtzer stayed out. What was your plan there? Even though you only had about 4 laps on him, was that you just either doing the opposite of what he did, or were you pretty gung-ho set to come in either way?
I pretty much had it set in mind that I was going to come in, and I was kind of shocked when I saw James stay out. And in my mind, I was just like, I need any advantage I can get. I need like the freshest tires. And to be honest, I was a bit short on fuel as well when I came in. But before the caution, I don't think I was like 2 or 3 laps short, and I was going to be doing like a third of the stint in 4th gear just to make it. So I mean, I needed like every advantage I could get at that point.
Yeah, well, you certainly left everything on the track here tonight. You know, there's nothing from the broadcast booth, man. You guys put everything out there and put on a heck of a show. Take home second in the finish tonight. Take home second in the points, I believe. Is there anybody you got to thank and throughout this season that helped you out and got you to this point?
First, I got to thank Ed Morris for doing all he's done, taking over this league after the end of last season, and keeping everything going. And also, he helped me out a bit throughout the series, just teammate wise, as well as everyone else over at Prime Time. Of course, gonna have to congratulate James on the win in the championship. Him and Nicholas Vroman, my other teammate who unfortunately couldn't make it in ID. They've been the class of the field all season, and like each week they're the ones to beat. And I really came in here shocked that I was that much of a challenge for James, because I haven't been that much of a factor in these races. Usually just way out there, and the fact I went toe to toe with him it sucks that I came out on the bad end, even though it was expected. I mean, he deserves it nonetheless. He's won, I think, like half the races this season, and yeah, and also I gotta thank you guys over at ESBN for doing all this broadcasting stuff.
Yeah, you guys did fantastic tonight. I can't praise you in this league enough for the great racing that you guys put on here. Your second place finisher tonight, and second place finisher in the points, the 09 of Bryce Senesac. Thank you again, man. Have a great night, and good luck next season.
Thank you.
Yeah, but Bryce, I will say, don't hang your head, bud. That was some of the best racing we've seen all night long, and trust me, he will remember you come next season.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. It's just, I'm happy with the performance I put on, but I'm usually just been that guy that's hard myself. That's like, there was room to be better out there, and I just needed to find where it was.
Well, I'm sure you definitely will come into next season, bud. So congratulations, hold your head high, bud. You definitely earned it and deserved it this season.
Thank you.
And that is our second place finisher, Bryce Senesac. And we will now move to our third place finisher tonight, Ed Morris. And Ed appeared to be content with allowing that championship battle to unfold. You had the best seat in the house for it for a vast majority of the night. What were your thoughts on how tonight went?
Yeah, I mean, tonight was that truck felt pretty comparable. I felt like I had a little bit more of an advantage going into tonight with running the ARCA car last night. The line was pretty similar, and even the setup was close. As far as how it felt, how it drove. Except the truck was a bit tighter than the ARCA car was last night. But we felt fast, we felt good, but James and Bryce, they were just like that one notch above us, and we did the best that we could hanging on there and keeping the time up. But they were just a bit better. But yeah, it was fun watching those guys battle it out, and just thinking, you always have that in the back of your head, like, well, if they wreck, I'm in the catbird seat, man. I'll bring this thing home. So, but I'm glad that didn't happen. Those guys were able to battle it out and finish strong.
And you had a nice little battle all night long with Mike Rominger, some close racing there. And you had said it was very, very close between last night in the ARCA car and here tonight. Did you find maybe passing a little bit harder last night as compared to tonight, or was it about even?
I think it was about even. It was, track position is pretty key here, and it seemed to be pretty close in both the cars, between the ARCA car and the truck. So they come down to trying to beat people in pit strategy and get out ahead of somebody. If you were on fresher tires than the guy that was in front of you, it made it a bit easier. But when you were equaled out, it was, especially when you get on the inside, you get the guy on the outside pinching, and that outside pulls the better run. It's just so hard to pass.
Now we'll allow you now to take the driver helmet off, and instead of talking to the driver Ed Morris, now we'd like to speak with the admin Ed Morris, and a season that went, I would have to say, very well. Now, I came in much in the same way as Maestros. I came in about halfway through, put on a lot of great racing, and I'm sure you're going to be taking that same break with this series that you're going to be taking with Maestros. Ed, the floor is yours. Anything you want to say to promote your league for next season, and anything you want to say to wrap up what has been season 18 for the Truck Series, the floor is yours.
Appreciate it, man. Oh, as I was saying, last night, if anybody was tuned in watching us last night, we run our oval series hand in hand. So yeah, the Truck Series, it's going to be a little bit of a break here. We'll be starting back up in July after the 4th of July. This will still be on Tuesday nights. We'll be running the ARCA series on Monday nights, and then we'll be looking at adding a couple more series too back to our schedule. Definitely the Cup Series on Thursdays with that next gen car. I think that's going to be pretty popular. A lot of guys are going to want to run that and like that. Possibly bringing the Xfinity Series back. Some changes are going to be coming down the pipeline for next season. Same structure, same format. The way that we run now. The playoff format went phenomenal. Went very well this season. We're definitely going to be continuing to do that with this elimination style playoffs. But we're going to be shaking things up a little bit and add a little bit of, maybe a little bit of cash into the mix. A little bit more of the race for than just points and a plaque at the end of the season here. And then we're going to be looking at adding a little bit of things to the series as well. Maybe some custom built setups. I'm pursuing that idea. So stay tuned on Facebook, social media, emails, everything like that. We'll be putting out some news here in the next few weeks on what we're doing, what the plan is. But I just want to say thanks to everybody that supported Extreme Motorsports, throughout this season. It was a great season. I know the numbers fell a bit low, at times, and we got some strategy to kind of overcome that. So I appreciate all the admins and all their hard work for everything they did this season, keeping this thing together, all the hard work and time that they put in. appreciate those guys. The broadcast, you guys over here at SRM ESBN, you guys do a phenomenal job. You guys showcase Extreme. You are, what we would call the face of Extreme. You show us to everybody else. You make us look how we look. So you guys did a heck of a job this season, Frank. You stepping in about halfway through and just killing it, man. Thank you so much. All those guys over there on your team, your staff, and everything like that. All the hard work you guys did. Appreciate it. We look forward to continuing this relationship and having you guys back next season and continuing to be a part of Extreme. So appreciate that. And then last but not least, thank you to all our sponsors, Ricmotech, Maestro's Classic, RB Custom Rigs. Thank you guys for putting the faith in us and allowing us to continue to do what we do. So thank you.
All right, there is your third place finisher tonight and head admin here for the Ricmotech High Performance Truck Series, Ed Morris. Ed, congratulations on yet another successful season, and I'm sure come the 4th of July we'll definitely be looking again.
Thank you, sir.
All right, and that will do it, not just for tonight, but for this season. And Greg, incredible night of racing here from these guys. It's one of the best races that we have seen, and we've seen a lot of great racing out of these guys this season. But tonight, boy, that was on another level.
Oh, absolutely. And I was honored that you asked me to jump in and give you a hand with this race tonight. This was, like you said, some of the best truck racing that I've seen recently. 160 laps, and there was action all the way from the drop of the green flag to when that checkered flag flew tonight. It was absolutely phenomenal. These guys did such a great job.
And it's action where you wanted to see it, too. Now, it's one thing if there's action for 5th all night long, but if it's for the race lead, that's a heck of a lot more exciting than watching two guys battle for 7th and 8th. And not just for Ricmotech, but for Maestros as well. While the fields may have been smaller towards the end of the season, while the battles were starting to get a little bit fewer and farther between, they were just as they were tonight for the race lead with the guys that you wanted to see battling each other. And that makes a good race. I don't care who you are.
Oh, absolutely. And that's one of the tendencies that happens with leagues. Like you said, people start to drop off as the series goes on, especially as playoffs come around. Some of the guys that may not have been in the playoffs may drop out. But the 9 guys that you saw on track tonight, put every ounce of energy that they had into tonight's race. And like you said, we had fights for the lead. We had fights for 2nd, 5th, all the way back. Everywhere you looked on track, you had guys fighting, and you could see the energy and the passion that these guys had for this league. And they wanted to put on a show, and they darn sure did that tonight.
They absolutely did. And we'll put the exclamation point on the season. We'll take a look at the results here for tonight's race. James Holtzer takes the win and his 2nd consecutive championship. Bryce Senesac comes home in 2nd. Ed Morris rounds out the podium. Mike Rominger comes home 3rd in the championship and 4th on track. David Elliott will come home in 5th. Jordan McGraw just did not have it tonight, unfortunately. Comes home in 6th, 4th in the championship for the 34. Christian DeBoer comes home in 7th. John Sterling, the only driver to finish 1 lap down here this evening. Michael Thwaites, the only driver to DNF, and Scott Ramler, the only driver to did not start here this evening from Phoenix. Coming up here on ESBN, you can flip on over to the Western States Racing League. They are at Knoxville running right now. That race only been going on for about a half hour at this point, so still plenty of time to go at the home of dirt racing in Knoxville. Coming up to tomorrow night, 2 races. The Way She Goes Racing League will be at Las Vegas for round number 3 of their season. That will be at 8:50 p.m. Eastern Time. Then a half hour after that will be the Ghost Cup Series. They will be at Bristol tomorrow night, so fender banging for sure in the Gen 6 Cup car tomorrow night at Bristol. On Thursday will be the TNT Truck Series. They will be at the Charlotte Roval at 7:50 p.m. Eastern Time. And then on Friday, the KMM New Gen Cup Series will come to you live from New Hampshire as they hit round number 7 of their season. No broadcasts on Saturday, and then back to the 4 normal broadcasts, the iFormula Championship, ISNF, Fuel, and Sunday Night NASCAR on Sunday night to close out the week. But to close out this broadcast, my name is Frank Marchese. My broadcast partner tonight, Greg McConey, thank you very much for making us a part of your evening, and we will see you in July for Season 19 of the Ricmotech Truck Series. Good night, everybody.
See everyone.